There's one.
Turn it over to Mr. Shaun Douglas. Shaun, if you wouldn't care, just tell everybody, for I guess anybody around here in fishing who doesn't know who you are. I'm assuming everybody probably knows who you are if they fish around here. But
Well, we hope not.
yeah.
So I'm Shaun. I run the West Virginia Rivers and Royal Bass Festival, the High River Challenge, and that's who I am.
What do you do for a living? You own DNR Heating?
So I own DNR Heating and Cooling, yes sir. So here out of Parkersburg.
How long have you been in the HVAC business?
So about 20 years.
Is that what you've always done, or did it start out with you and your dad working construction, and then you guys added this later?
So we added the heating company later. We started in construction, built houses, small commercial buildings, and yeah, about 20 years ago, I moved from the construction over to on the heating side.
So you've never done any hard work a day in your life, is what I'm gathering.
I've been in muddy ditches.
Yeah, I imagine construction, especially because that's what your dad did when he was growing up too, right? I'm sure having free labor around never got used, right? He never.
No, never. So, I think I remember being on construction sites at 8 years old. So.
Oh, I could imagine. Yeah. That's I guess a good humble upbringing for anybody, you know. So I guess without going a whole lot into your personal life, do you have anything you want to know about DNR Heating and Cooling before we take off into this adventure?
No, I'm pretty interested in hearing about the bass festivals.
Yeah. So the first question here: how long have you been bass fishing? And out of those years, how many have been competitive?
I've been probably bass fishing the majority of my life. We started in a little john boat going up to the strip mines in Ohio.
Yeah, I was going to say, your dad's always been a fisherman, right?
Yep. We started competitive bass fishing probably 35, 40 years ago.
That's
30, probably 30.
That's a 10 years. So how old would you have been when you guys started?
I was probably, I'm going to say sophomore, junior in high school, I guess.
So to start out...
Well, no, it'll be before that. I'm only 44.
West Virginia man.
Yeah.
So when you started competitive, was it you and your brother, you and your dad, or just a mix of whoever was available between you and your dad and your brother whenever you guys...
I kind of got into the competitive fishing before my brother did, so it was
That's why you're better?
Yeah, I'm way better than my brother.
I know.
But yeah, it was me and my dad for several years. Over the last, I'm gonna say 5 years or so, we've kind of split up a little bit, so to speak. Dad, I wanted to give my brother a chance to spend time with Dad, right?
Right. Learn how to fish.
Yeah, well, he definitely needs to learn how to fish.
Yeah.
We won't tell him that.
So you said you guys started off in john boats. That makes it easy to go into the second question. When you guys started competitive bass fishing, obviously you weren't in a john boat.
Right.
What was you and your dad's first real bass boat that you can remember going out in that kind of kept to its step?
So Dad bought his first bass boat was a fiberglass bass tracker, 18 foot with a 110 on it.
I didn't know that Bass Tracker ever made a fiberglass boat.
Yep.
The thing down
I'm going to guess that was late 80s, early 90s. So they transitioned from it to an 18 foot Stratus with a 150. Had it a couple years and then moved to the 21 foot and had a couple 21 foot Stratuses, and then
those are nice boats.
It was, yeah, one of my favorite boats. So.
Yeah, for anybody that knows me, my first two boats were Stratus, so they hold a special spot in my heart. And for anybody who likes Stratuses, it's in the market for a new boat. I think it's one or two of the engineers from Stratus helped design Falcon. So the Predator that I have is a Stratus hull, just wider.
I gotcha.
Yeah, it's built 201 hull, is what I was told by one of the dealers. So
okay.
Yeah, whenever I found that out, I was even more impressed with my Falcon. So when did you guys switch to Ranger? When did that become
I'm going to guess around 2014, 15 range, I believe.
Did you buy it brand new?
No, I actually bought it used.
The one you have now?
Yep, it's a 2012.
So the motor's new. You bought one of the, what are those, the G3 or?
Yeah, we upgraded the motor to the G2.
Okay.
Evinrude.
So that's the one that they put the 10-year warranty out on at the beginning.
Yep.
So if you don't mind me asking, are you still able to get the warranty and stuff taken care of? I've wondered how they.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep. So little challenges through COVID, of course, with getting parts, but
yeah.
Other than that, it's not been too bad. Cross my fingers.
I'll tell you what, I don't blame people for holding on to them. If you can still get the warranty arm on those things, it's a lot cheaper than buying a new boat right now.
Well, the problem is nobody wants them in on trade anymore, right? Because Evinrude shut down, so it makes it a little challenging. So I baby my boat a lot.
Oh, I don't blame you because, like you said, if anybody's going to buy a bass boat right now, a used one, they're going to try to find one with 4-strokes. 4-strokes have been out long enough now where you can find a few in the used market. Yeah. And then on top of that, you have the Evinrude factor. They went out of business. So yeah, I'd say if you go to try to sell your boat right now, it would be kind of hard to find somebody to give you probably what that boat's actually worth. I'd take it. I'd run it as long as you could if I was you. So you can't run it.
Still up in the air what I'm going to do over the next few years, but I think I've got 3 more years warranty, so I'll figure something out probably.
What do you think? How do you think the Ranger handles compared to the Stratuses?
It handles rough water better, of course, just because they're heavier, but they're not near as fast as Stratus was. I mean, don't get me wrong, that Ranger I got, it'll get the water pretty good, or used to. I don't run it as hard as I used to, but
trying to get extra hours out of it.
Yeah, but then our last Stratus was probably 3.5, 4 miles an hour faster.
I believe that because I know my last Stratus was a 19-foot and it had a 200 on it. And I could run 71, 72 with it. But I still, I ran against you a couple of times. And your Ranger outran me typically if I was, because I couldn't keep up with the wakes of the other boats in front of us.
I've had my Ranger in years past. I've touched 76, but when it was running good, it was a 73, 74 mile an hour boat all day long.
I've heard that from a lot of people. Do you have a hydraulic jack plate?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you have to typically run it at? To you?
I don't have numbers on it. I just I drive it by the seat of my butt.
Yeah, just drive by for you.
Well, I honestly, it's getting to the point with this new boat, but my last boat and the boat before that, anybody that drives a boat knows, you can tell by the sound of your motor.
Yeah.
If you're over trimmed or if you're right at the point to where I can just, as I'm trimming up, I can hear the motor changing in volume and I can tell kind of when it hits that right pitch to where I'm going to be getting the most speed out of my boat. Yeah. So without warning everybody about boats, let's get into the real juicy stuff about Bass Festival. So I'll start off with saying that there was a little controversy about Bass Festival. That went over smooth. Everybody got walked through, right? So
Yep.
What pool was the winner out of?
St. Mary's.
I'm glad he found a spot to fish is all I can say.
It was very crowded in St. Mary's.
Yeah, so for anybody wondering what the controversy was, and we're not going to go too deep into it, but it was just one of the locks needed maintenance, right?
Yep.
And even though I don't know what this tournament brings in, but the challenge brings in roughly $250,000 to the economy every year, right? Something like that.
I'd say pretty close, yeah.
And this probably is knocking on the door of $100,000 it brings in, if not more, if I was guessing, right? Between all the gas spent and hotel rooms and stuff like that. It's good for the economy, St. Mary's.
It's extremely good for the economy.
Yeah, 130 boat field. You would have thought that maybe somebody, the Corps of Engineers, Army Corps of Engineers would have put off the maintenance for a week, but that's completely out of everybody's control here, But anyways, the people weren't going to be able to walk or start off in that pool, which had a few people hot. But at the end of the day, we were able to get people locked up, walked back. Everybody had a good time. There was no issues getting through the locks, right?
So they didn't lock up. So of course, in the Bass Festival, we take off day one with 136 boats. We give them the option to put in 3 different ramps, 3 different pools. But they have to boat back by water right to the weigh-in. Day 2, everybody takes off from St. Mary's. To my knowledge, nobody tried to lock up because, with the big chamber being down up at the Hannibal Locks, they was having to split the barges in half and whatnot. So
Yeah.
being able to lock was, I'm glad to see everybody get back.
But making it up and down is almost going to be impossible. So aside from all that, how do you think this year's event went? What do you, in your opinion, overall, between the festival itself and the tournament, how do you think it went?
So, as far as the festival, I don't really know. I walked away from it a few years ago. It's just too much on my plate.
The guy doing sound check sounded good whenever we pulled up the weigh-ins.
Oh,
yeah.
I've heard that it actually went pretty good with the festival, but personally, I don't know. But when you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and start putting boats in and get out of the weigh-in site at 6 or 7 o'clock, and then you got 3 hours worth of paperwork to do before day 2, you don't
worry about the festival.
You don't hang out. Yeah. But
I mean, all we have to do is tie on and we don't hang out.
Yeah. So the day of the event, the 2 days of the event went smooth. I don't think there was too many hiccups or too many anglers that was frustrated. It takes a lot of patience to weigh 136 boats.
Yes, it does.
Day one, we were out of there real quick too in the morning. That was some of the best putting in and getting out.
It really was. So, in years past when we had every boat in St. Mary's, 125 boats, we typically started putting in 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And it was normally, my lord, 6:30, 4 till 7 before we got everybody parked. This year we put in just almost 100 boats, and we started 10 till 5. Yeah. And we was fishing. I think we blasted boats off, if I remember right.
15 right out there.
Yeah, I was going to say 6:10.
You were coming up through the middle. Jordan, get out of the way. It was right at 6:15. Yeah.
So the team that I have that works that morning parking lot, they do a fabulous job, and we've got a pretty good
group of volunteers. Yeah, there's a couple ladies that deserve a shout out, especially because they are at every tournament, especially before this year, before we started doing the online registrations. Man, those ladies would be there just as early as us to not fish.
Yeah, and that was a big part of the online registration, not letting them, not having to have them ladies come in and register boats that morning.
God bless them though for doing it.
They are, all the girls over at Seven Rivers Marine, they do a bang up job with the entries and the computer work. And the Bass Festival, I use Shelly Winans and my wife Shay runs a lot of the back end side of that event.
But, yeah, I was gonna say your wife shows up too, and Shelly, and I mean it's crazy how much help we have. So big round of applause to. I will say, any angler listening to this, if you're at these tournaments, you don't tell those women thank you when you see them. Shame on you. It wouldn't be here. And what is this? The end of the year, right? We do a tip cup that we do at the challenge to try to raise a little bit of money for them.
Yep.
If you walk by that thing and don't put at least a $10 bill in, shame on you.
Yep. and I almost forgot, actually, Shelly's daughter, Brittany, she checks boats in at the check-in point at the thoroughfare, and she gets forgot about a lot, and she sometimes takes a lot of crap from fishermen.
I bet so,
because she makes that decision if you're late or not late, and communicates that with me. So,
speaking of being late, was there anybody DQ'd for being late this year? No names, just was there any number of boats DQ'd for being late?
No, there was not one boat DQ'd for being
that guy we seen coming back must not have been. We came back and it was right at the lock time for like the second flight, and we seen a guy that was just hauling butt
underneath the bridge. He was hauling ass.
Yeah. I would have bet money that he was. We both were like, man, he's late for check-in, and we looked at the watch and it was like he didn't make it.
He had about 30 seconds, and I was like,
yeah. So I would say that he was probably actually the guy in the next flight that was just trying to make it to a spot last minute. But
There was 2 boats that was disqualified. One was
short fish.
Us.
One was a short fish, and you're right, it was you.
Don't worry, everybody. I have a reason. I'll give you all later. It's not like we weren't trying to cheat. That wasn't the case at all.
But and then we had one that did not pay attention to off limits, and.
They turned themselves in, or did somebody else turn them in?
No, they did not turn, and they didn't turn themselves in because they didn't know, right? So
it happens.
It does, and this is probably out of all the years I've tournament directed that tournament, the least amount of disqualifications I've had to give. And
there's a few every tournament scene. Yeah.
They are. They was years past, man. I've had to disqualify close friends of mine. It's a tough decision, but I disqualify my dad as verbally. That's how you go to it.
I agree.
Are you finally ready to buy that new pontoon boat for the family, or the new bass boat for yourself? Or maybe you even just need good, reliable, affordable service for the boat that you already have? Well, either way, you can get all of that at Seven Rivers Marine in Coolville, Ohio. Personally, I have trusted them with all of my marine needs for years, and honestly, you can't ask for a better group of people. Give them a call today at 740-846-0062. Again, that's 740-846-0062. Hey, are you or somebody you know a veteran that needs help fighting the VA for the benefits that you deserve? If so, you need to give Jan Dills a call. I can say from personal experience that Jan Dills and her group of attorneys will fight for you to the bitter end. If you're fighting the VA, you need the attorneys that won't take no for an answer. Give Jan Dills a call today at 877-755-7183.
I agree with you. I always like the DQ over the short fish. Just like I told you and the guy that measured the fish for us, there's no hard feelings from me. Whatever, for everybody listening, what happened, we had a close enough weight to make it to day 2, but we knew we needed at least another pound to make it. And at the very end, I think we had like a half hour left. We caught a fish. And when I say you could see daylight through its tail fin on our rule, which is the rule that came with the boat. So what we would imagine it was pretty accurate, right? But I fanned it out and I flipped it over and it hit 12 every time, right? It never showed up short for us. But I looked at it and I said, man, 2 things. One, fish shrinking the live well. That happens. When they're a big ball of muscle, especially the smallmouth. They get stressed or whatever, they tense up, they can shrink an eighth of an inch too. I said, I don't know if our rule's accurate. I didn't, like an idiot, I didn't switch ours against theirs because me being me, I assumed that the one that I had was accurate. Well, anyways, threw it in there. We knew it was a risk, but there's no points and there's only a paycheck. So I told him, I said, if we don't have it, we're not making it to day 2. And if it comes up short, we're definitely not making it to day 2. So we rolled the dice. But, like I've always said, tournament directors have a job and us anglers have a job. And we try to push the rules and you guys make sure that they don't get pushed too far. And nobody should ever have hard feelings over, especially if you were knowingly pushing the rules.
Right.
We're all there for the same reason, to have a fair playing field. And if you guys aren't doing your jobs, then nobody else gets to have a fun time. It's nothing personal. It's just business, right?
It is, yeah. Treat it like a business.
Well, if you were giving your friends favors, the Bass Festival wouldn't be an $18,000 tournament.
No.
It would have 25 boats in it because everybody would be mad, but everybody was getting favoritism. And it's just not how it works. I told the guy that measured the fish, there's absolutely no hard feelings. This is what this is all about. If maybe if I thought I was in the right and I thought somebody was trying to weasel me or something, it'd been different. But we weren't. It's not like we had a leg to stand on. Right. He tried measuring it 2 or 3 times, and he's like, "Man, it doesn't touch." So I was like, "Okay, I'm sleeping in tomorrow." There was 97 boats in here today. I have no desire to be here tomorrow because.
The time you get out of day 1, you're tired.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to get up that next morning and get out there and beat the water again. And we finished 64th on day 1, and my partner, and he helps me put boats in the morning and whatnot, sits on my committee. But I looked at him as we was idling out the thoroughfare day 2, and I said, if you'd have looked at me this morning and said, let's just put these boats in, and we'll go back home because, we don't have a chance at a big check, really. You got to bring in a big bag. I'd have went back home, curled back in bed day 2. And
we've had that same conversation so many times.
Yep. And day 2 was one of the best days of fishing I've had on the river in a really long time. So I'm glad we stayed.
Yeah, but I agree with you, especially first thing in the morning. If you're not feeling like, that optimism that you get, especially on day 1 of a tournament, when you really think that you have just as much of a chance as anybody else.
Yeah.
It's hard to get that motivated. You wake up in the morning and you didn't get a whole lot of sleep. You're tired from being out there in the sun for 10 hours anyways. And you wake up in the morning and your first thought is, man, I could just roll right back over and go right back to sleep. But I found a lot of those days that you force yourself to get on the water, like you just said, you have some of the most fun there's been so many times that I've gotten home from work and been like, I don't want to go out this evening, and just forced myself, which I know some people might think sounds crazy to force yourself to go fishing, but do it as much as I do. Sometimes it turns into a job.
It does.
But I've had some of the best fun I've ever had whenever I've not been, wanting to go fishing. But, so before, did you have something you want to say?
Just 10 hours on the water people think it's just fishing, but it will absolutely wear you out. And then when pre-fishing, you're there a week fishing, and then for the tournament, it's worse than work sometimes.
Yeah, and it's what I realized as the tournament director, it's even worse sitting in that position, right? Because, a little behind the scenes of what happens as a tournament director. So everybody got their entries in. It cut off on June 1st. So we started entering all the data for the fishermen into the software on Thursday evening after work. It was about 5:30, and I quit on it, or we quit on it, I shouldn't say, at about 10:30 that night. And we still had just about an hour left to go, because you got to put their names in the computer. You got to get the random draw for boat numbers. We don't just rely on that computer, right? Because I'm scared to death that thing's going to crash middle of the way in. So we do a hard copy way slip. And so now we got to put boat numbers and names on them individual way slips. And then we have to create announcer cards for Chris Lawrence, which did a bang up job.
Yeah, I gotta say, that guy he had last year, the challenge was his first year.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he has an amazing voice for it too. One, I guess he has an amazing voice for that. But two, he's very family friendly.
Yep.
His jokes are really clean. He has a really smooth voice, really knowledgeable about fishing. I've enjoyed him both times. I've had to listen to him anyway. And he did a great job.
So he does Metro News Charleston. He does Saturday mornings. I think it is at 7:00. He does, and I may be wrong on that, but he does West Virginia Outdoors. So he covers hunting and fishing.
Okay.
Every Saturday morning.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. That
so
makes
he is a radio announcer. So, but he told me last year when I got contact with him for the challenge, he's always wanted to do the Bass Festival.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
He got to do it, and he enjoyed it, and we got him on schedule for next year. So
good deal. So we can edit this out if we need to. On topic of next year, you directing next year? Did you decide if you're going to hold on to next year?
So I am taking a break from directing.
Are you going to have anything to do with it next year at all? You said we, like you're
and you don't have to edit this. I don't care. I will be actively involved, and
I'm glad to hear that.
What most anglers that follow our stuff may or may not know is when we're working on the rules, we're working on decisions as best for the fishing community. I've got a 6-person board or committee, right? We meet 3 or 4 times a year, and it's made up from smallmouth fishermen and then, up from St. Mary's on, and largemouth fishermen south, right? So I tried to get that blend of styles of fishermen in different areas, and we sit and we vote on them. I actually don't vote. The guys in the committee votes on everything coming and going.
Are you like a tiebreaker?
I'm a tiebreaker. So we did lose one of our committee members last fall. Tim Swall was on it, and of course he passed away. And very, very hard to replace.
That was a big loss to the fishing community.
But I'm going to take a break. It wears on you, right? And it's not necessarily a day-to tournament, because for the most part, everybody that I rely on for each tournament day, right? They have kind of a specific job, and they go and they execute on that job, and it runs flawlessly. It's the week before a tournament, especially these big tournaments like the Bass Festival, right? And I said it in the pre-tournament meeting, right? I got about 35 phone calls the week of the tournament, and it wears on you mentally.
Well, I can imagine, because I've been guilty of it myself. You call and ask the tournament director a question before you pick up the rule book.
Yeah.
And you could just as easily have found whatever your question was in the rule book.
Right.
Most people don't want to take the 2 minutes to look anything up.
And I'm guilty of it too, right?
Yeah.
So I after I took this position, I was like, oh my Lord. Man, I made them past tournament directors' lives miserable, right? And all I need to do is just pick up and read that rule book, and it's pretty well covered, you know. And as a tournament director, we're more than happy to clarify if there's something they've got a question on. But in most cases, you know, it's like the week before the Bass Festival, the three main questions I got. Is there a mandatory meeting on Friday? What time's the mandatory meeting on Friday? And was there off limits the week before the tournament? And all three of them questions are in that. You know, they're in the rules and they're spelled out. I mean, all they had to literally do was read the rules that they signed the entry form. You know,
to be fair, like 125 of those people have fished Bass Festival before, right?
Oh, yeah.
So they knew that for the last 30 years, there's been a mandatory meeting the night before the first day of the tournament. So that shouldn't have been a question. And then the off limits, have they ever changed?
A little bit.
Yeah, we've been pretty consistent the last 5 years.
We've played in years past with putting boat ramps off limits that's had recently had tournaments and different things like that. But it gets hard to manage.
I will say on our other trail, the Fishers and Men, Dustin doesn't put anything off limits. We've had people go after retreads, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think it makes a difference I've never seen anybody win a tournament off retreads. I wouldn't be opposed to no off limits. As
well as the river's been fishing. You know, and I know Sunday, a lot of the fishermen stuck around close to St. Mary's just outside them boundaries and fish for retreads all day. And look, there ain't nothing wrong with it. There'll be 2 or 3 of them that they'll make a big push and get a pretty decent bag of fish and get a big push for a nice check. But overall, I mean, you're going to catch a lot of short fish, and I'd say short 12-inch fish and have a small one in it.
Not to mention a lot of those fish aren't going to bite the next day, like immediately afterwards. Some of them will, but a whole bunch of them will, I don't think. Yeah.
It's a science, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you're going to fish for retreads, you definitely have to adjust your game to fish for fish that. Yeah, you don't want. I guess if you think everybody was throwing chatterbait the day before, you're definitely not going to go out there and throw chatterbait into those fish.
Yeah.
That
fish ain't going to get a pull twice.
So speaking of the, I guess the tournament director situation, stuff like that. Do you think? Did you get the turnout you was hoping for this year?
On Bass Festival?
Yeah. I was expecting like 150.
Well, so in years past, because it's always been capped at 125, I've always had no more than 8 or 10 people waiting to get in. In most years, it's 3 to 5 people, right? And made a lot of people mad that fished over the years that didn't get their money in. You know, sorry, it's full, and just
that was almost us one year. I mean,
I gave up a spot one year.
This is the same year, so we were next in line to get in because we didn't get our money in in time. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, though, I didn't get mad. I owned it. Yeah, I owned it. That was my fault. But anyways, we were like next to the line, and then you called me one day, and there was a fishing team that just well known in the community. The dad was older. He asked if he could bump in front of me in line, and I was like, yeah, sure.
He didn't ask.
No, you asked.
I asked. You ended up fishing, didn't you?
Yeah, we still ended up fishing.
Still ended up getting in.
Yeah, I don't know. I have this whole theory that if you do the right thing, that God just makes things pan out. So I don't get too worked up over that. I don't get too worked up over that. Now, let me get a bird's nest 5 minutes into the morning, and you'll see this. I guess all the stuff I talk about God being great, man, it can, just so you know, you can be the best Christian in the world. You can still come unglued to fishing tournament. There's Russell's seen my anger. But anyways, back to the tournament.
So I anticipated somewhere around 130 boats. We ended up with 136, and I know of 10 more that typically fish. That was scared of the locks. That they're not going to. 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 They
Are you wanting to make some renovations to your home or commercial property, but you don't want to break the bank? Well, problem solved. Call my friends Jess and CJ at Ellenboro Floors in Ellenboro, West Virginia, where you can get not only reliable, great service, but at an affordable cost. They handle both commercial and residential, and financing's available. Give them a call today at 304-869-3969. Hey, y'all. It's Jordan with the Getting Bit Fishing team, and I just wanted to take a moment to say thanks for checking out our podcast, The Last Cast, filmed in the one and only Ohio River Outdoors, located at 13520 Emerson Avenue, Williamstown, West Virginia. If you've never been here before, this place has absolutely everything a fisherman can need. Come swing by today. Come see Doug. Trust me, if you've never been before, it's worth the trip.
They're not going to set in a merry-go-round, so to speak, in St. Mary's, right?
Yeah.
They're going to get away from traffic and go up north. And just being scared of the locks, they elected not to fish this year. But and don't get me wrong, I love everybody to fish, but I was content with 136.
A lot of boats.
It is. It's a lot to manage and stressful.
Don't get me wrong, I hope the number grows. But yeah, I hope in the future the other locks open. Yeah. As an angler that was fishing in St. Mary's, that was brutal. I mean, was it 27 miles of bank line on either side? Is that how long the locks are?
To be honest with you, I don't know.
We looked it up. It's like 27 miles. You think almost 100 boats, 27 miles on each side. You got to know everybody very personally.
You did. It was, we elected to start fishing low in the pool Saturday and work our way north too. We figured a lot of people would go north and work their way south, right?
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case. The people went north, pretty much stayed north. So
you ain't joking.
We got way up there and just started to get way up in the pool and we wanted to fish this spot and there was a boat on it. We wanted to fish this spot, there was a boat on it. So we just turned around, come back south and we got our 5.5 pound.
Were any of those boats fishing back and forth by chance in one spot?
We fished the entire pool. We fished lock to lock. We ended up going up north, and then we finished
down south, as far south as you could go without being disqualified.
we were at the Belpre.
Oh, well, I mean, we were just right there.
When they came through, there had to have been 30 boats.
I think it was 29 boats put in down there, 28, 29.
There was a few who I think locked down and came back up.
Yeah, some people locked down instead of starting off in Belpre just so they don't have to tote their trailers back. Yeah.
I did that one. I did that 1 year.
Yeah. I've never done that, but I've thought about it. This year, what's crazy is we elected to stay in St. Mary's, which is a first for us because we aren't. Really, up until this year, St. Mary's was not our pool that we really favored. We know Belpre really well.
Yeah,
we won a tournament out of Belpre. We've had several good finishes out of Belpre, but I don't know. This year, I just decided that we was going to fish St. Mary's, and that's how I pre-fished. And then the lock situation happened a couple weeks, but we'd heard rumors, but I don't know. I didn't think about pre-fishing Belpre. Man, I wish I would have because I'm not saying that it would have changed the results for us, but if I could have just had a spot to fish that day without everybody else fishing, because I'm not if anybody's listening to this, just because we have a wrap boat does not mean we're better fishermen. Don't think you need to copy off us. Just because you see us in the spot does not mean that the fish are there. Okay, so this was our first tournament with a wrap boat, right? So we quickly found out that there is this false perception that since there's a wrap boat there, that people think that we are better fishermen, which isn't the case at all, right? We didn't do anything special to get this. But yeah, especially in practicing, I had people pull right up on top of me, and then in the tournament, people were a little less friendly. I think the wrap boat had something to do with that. And there was 90 other boats that we were competing with, but you couldn't find a free 10-yard section in St. Mary's. If there was not a boat there was also not fish there. There's a reason there was nobody fishing that bank,
And you're right.
Yeah, you're right.
It's very hard just to put your nose down and fish, right? When you're following boats or boats are following you,
it's rough.
It is extremely rough. So.
It's mentally taxing, I guess, because in your mind, when you pull up to the bank and there's nobody else on it, you think it's fresh. We've talked about this. There could have been a guy 10 minutes ago hit up that bank.
Yeah.
But you will fish it 100% differently because in your mind, it's a fresh bank. You take your time, go over everything, catch fish. But if you see like 3 other people there, at least me, you want to rush through it. You just feel like, let's go see if the next spot's open. Let's go see if the next spot's open. And before you know it, you ran 2 hours and you haven't been casting out to catch the fish. So what did you accomplish? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
So much of tournament fishing is your mindset, right?
Staying in the game, which is hard at best sometimes, especially on the river. Because let's admit it, like you fish out of state a lot, like us. You go to a place like Erie or down south to some of those lakes. Every time you cast, you just have that beautiful feeling in the pit of your stomach that like I could feel 5 pounds into this rod at any second. Yeah. You're on the river. After maybe my 10th cast, I might catch a fish.
Yeah. There is days like that.
Oh yeah. I mean, with the river, it's just a different beast.
It is. Yeah. It is. Yeah.
It's.
I know people that they're googling fishing techniques and fishing styles and what to throw and what not to throw. And be all honest, you could probably take all that stuff you Google, throw it in the garbage.
Yeah.
Because it don't work on the river.
No. So I will tell you right now from personal experience, not even just on the river, just fishing in general, spending time on the water.
Oh, experience is everything. Yeah. Spending that. I had this conversation with a friend of mine a couple of days ago, right? It's experience. And, me and my partner last year did fairly well throughout the year and actually put together a pretty good comeback for the Bass Festival this year, second day. But he has been fishing this river for years and years and years and years. And I've got several years on it, but, it's the experience and learning when to make a decision, right? Reading that water and finding that pattern and knowing where to go spot to spot to spot.
It's the fisherman's sixth sense you get from being on the water.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's that feeling you get in your stomach whenever you just know, like, I'm fishing in 10 foot of water right now, but they're not here. Like, I don't know, it's just you feel it in your stomach and you know if I go to 5 foot of water, then I'm going to catch fish. Yeah. And you only get that from being out there time and time again.
And all them young guys and new tournament anglers, man, put the time on the water. We've all been there, we've all done it, and sometimes it just takes years and years. I don't catch on very quick.
I'm right there with you, Shaun.
but it's just it's frustrating, to be in the positions where you don't know what to do or don't understand how these guys are catching fish, and
we did it.
Just put your time on the water and pay attention and
put more time on the water.
Put more time on the water.
Can't stress that enough. We were those guys, man. When we first started doing this, our first year tournament fishing, which was just 5 or 6 years ago, I think we blinked every tournament.
Yeah.
And we still showed up.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the first year, this was the first challenge we fished before the championship. I got this bright idea. I was like, hey, there's a big tournament coming up. I think we stood a chance because, those guys don't know what they're doing. I've been watching YouTube videos for a week. We ended up finishing 16th in that tournament, and that was the worst thing that could have ever financially happened to either one of us because that was like an addiction. I remember we choked the next year, still blanking at most tournaments. We might catch 1 or 2 fish, but you'd be thinking to yourself, like, I did everything. I threw every bait there was. Why are these guys showing up with limits and I'm not catching anything?
And then you talk to those guys and they're like, oh, yeah, I was throwing a Senko all day. Well, so was I. Oh, green pumpkin. Well, so was I.
What do you do? Yeah, and what I have found out, number one, is you learn more about where to cast your bait.
Yeah.
Learning where your bait actually needs to land to get those fish to bite is so vital.
Yeah.
The second thing you learn is the general areas, right? Like what to actually look for.
Yeah, 90% of the fish is in 10% of the water.
Yeah.
It's a good rule of thumb.
It's true.
It's true. I mean, you can go down about any bank and catch fish, right? Yeah. But whether or not them fish is 6-inch fish or 12-inch fish or 2-pound fish, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
But
so when it really clicked for me was just last year, actually, Chautauqua with Johnny Thompson. They skunked us at Chautauqua. I mean, me and him had a really good day. We came in like both of us was carrying, you've had those days where you both carried the weigh bag like you're feeling really big, and then some guy shows up with like 5 more pounds, and you're like, here, you can carry that. Well, that was Johnny and them. And afterwards, this is when we first started becoming friends. I asked him after the tournament was over, like, man, I've seen you in a lot of the same areas as me. If you don't mind me asking, as a newer angler, how did you go from catching these 3-pounders to all 5-pounders? And he just said, okay, I'll give you the hit. He said, I just happened to look back and realize that the 3-pounders were biting on these types of dogs. And the 5, 6, 7-pounders were only biting like right here on these types of dogs. So I quit fishing all that stuff, and I just started focusing. And he had like 30 boat docks that just fit that exact description that he was hitting repeatedly all day. And that's when it just kind of clicked in my head. You can't just find areas to fish. You got to find spots to fish inside of those areas. Yeah. I don't know. I guess a lot clicked that day, and fishing has made a lot more sense since then. But you don't find that out until you spend that severe. Like I could only imagine how much time Johnny Thompson has spent on the water. I think that man has a tan that'll never go away. If that describes anything, yeah.
Well, you can learn so much from. I'm sorry, Johnny, but the older generation, right? Johnny.
He won't listen to this. You can call him. He's not going to listen to this. We're already trying to get him on here, and he was like, "What the heck's a podcast?" Yeah.
So, but all jokes aside, you got them guys that spent time on that water for years and years and years, way before you even thought about tournament fishing, and you can get just a tidbit of information off each one of them. Then that helps it click. But one thing I've learned is every spot you have has a spot within it.
Oh,
right. So that spot may be, a big fish spot, or it could be, just that limit spot, right? Where you can pull in there to that one specific spot on that spot and just wax them there for a few minutes, get your limit, or get a big fish,
And you just hope nobody else knows about that 10-yard stretch inside of the 100-yard stretch.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, we know all about that. And we actually had one spot that we thought, like, on this 30-yard stretch, there was this little bush that was like 10 yards off the bank, like in 10 foot. Like, this is the perfect scenario. You just pan the live scope over and just see like a Christmas tree of fish, right? And I didn't think, because it was the worst looking bank I've ever seen. I would have never fished it. Yeah. I just happened to come across it one day. And I thought nobody knew about that spot. I'll be darned. If we didn't go there, he caught, it was like a 2.5 pounder. And we fished it for 30, 40 minutes. I was like, okay, let's let the spot cool off. We're going to go across the river. We're going to fish this spot. And man, it was like clockwork. As soon as the boat comes off plane, straight to that spot. And they spent like an hour and a half there. I remember we kept driving by them. Every time I'd see them still there, like I'd just get more and more mad. Like I just wanted to fish that. I was like, that's the only spot that we had to fish here.
I want to say there's generally no secrets in the river. When you think you figured something else out, somebody hasn't. More often than not, you'll be like, and I did it this year, practicing for the festival, right? I was keying in on certain things and trying to differentiate myself because I knew it was going to be busy in that pool. So I was trying to look for key areas that people, I wouldn't think people, to the spots that I had a lot of confidence in, for later in the day, that first day when stuff's starting to get beat up, and I was like, oh crap.
Just when you think you had the right idea, so did 5 other guys thinking the exact same thing. And then now that electronics are the way they are, and it's not like you used to. When we first started just 5 or 6 years ago, you still see a good majority of guys that didn't have updated electronics. Mm-hmm. But there's hardly a guy on the trail now that doesn't have at least an updated Humminbird or some sort of new side scan with, right? Yeah. So some of that stuff that you thought was secret a couple of years ago, definitely there's no way that it's...
Yeah, everything's in plug now.
Oh, yeah. Not to mention, even if they don't have the electronics, if they're out there spending time on the water and they see you in a spot over and over and over again and they fish against you in a tournament, don't think the next time that they're not out there fishing and you're not there, that they're not going to swing in there and be like, what's this all about, Yeah.
They're going to spend half an hour scanning that spot.
Oh, yeah. So, last thing on the festival for a little bit. I know you're not the winner, but what do you think the key was to winning this year? Do you think it was patience? Do you think it was, what do you think the overall key was to bringing in the win?
Well, just being able, probably in my mind, right? It's being able to think ahead, right? You got your one key spot you want to go to every morning, and then knowing how to somewhat duplicate that in different areas, right? And be able to make them key decisions throughout the day that allow you to.
And Bobby's good at that.
Bobby's extremely good at that. Bobby's a really accomplished fisherman.
He fished the Pro Trail for a year, right? The FLW for one season.
Yep, he did. He qualified through the qualifiers through the state and regionals and won the nationals and fished
through the federation, right?
Yeah, it was a federation. Yes, it was the FLW side on his back. It was about, I think, a Living the Dream package.
Yeah.
We're talking about maybe running it next year. We're not sure yet, though.
Yeah, we're still trying to make it run on what we're going to do next year.
I got you.
We're still running the challenge.
Yeah,
that'll be there every year. It's too close not to run that.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful tournament.
I just wish that river would fish better. But yeah.
That river's fishing better. Well, it depends on how you fish, but
I think the river's right now is better than it's been in 5 years.
Yeah.
It's consistently got better. I mean, and I was talking to you before we started this, this year was the first year this spring. Of course, we had the floodwaters and whatnot, so he was late getting on the water, and then work kind of got in the way. But, I never really boated what I'd say big fish before the festival. I caught 1 or 2 2-pound fish all spring long. It's like, that was odd for me, but
not us, man. We had the best spring on the river we've ever had.
Yeah, and I had it last year, right? Yeah. But as far as keeper fish, they're everywhere. We caught a lot of fish every time we was out. We could not find them quality bites. You need to be competitive and tournament.
So here's a weird complaint that we have, and he'll back me up on this because most people would say this is complete crap. I wish we could catch this keeper fish because our biggest problem is usually we'll catch 3 really nice ones. And this isn't just on the river. This is every tournament we fish. We can't catch short fish. How many? You always hear people saying, like, I caught 30 shorts today and only 1 keeper. We've never done that. We've never had a day where we've caught 5 short fish. Every fish we usually get's a keeper, but we usually don't catch a lot of them. And I've sat down days and thought, are we not like finesse fishing enough?
Are we fishing too big? Are we fishing too small?
And I've thrown
every day's different.
Yeah. I mean, it's a consistent. Oddly enough, we could just figure out how to get the 2 other fish. We would become undefeatable, Shaun. But it's just not happening for us. So that actually goes right into the next question I had. The river, I especially since the flood, I think it's fishing great this year.
I'm pleasantly surprised. I was a little concerned about, the flood, and, back in 04 was the last big flood we had.
I thought there was one Marshall was telling me a couple of years ago, he had to move his camper. It been like 6 or 7 years ago. Right before COVID, he had to move his camper. It was up about to where it was recently, is what he told me. It was actually up higher.
No, it was 04. It was higher than where it's at now.
So the one I'm thinking of, it got high enough to where Marshall had to move his camper at Wright's, and he's only had it there for like 6 years. There was he said that like 3 weekends in a row, there was a flood one weekend, didn't get too bad. And then a flood the next weekend, and then the third weekend it got real bad.
That's about what happened this year.
Yeah. His theory was that that stressed out a bunch of fish and killed them.
Well, I don't necessarily think it kills a fish. I mean,
I didn't interrupt you about the 04 story.
No, you're all right. You bother me.
I was trying to figure out our floods here because that river. I'm trying to figure out how often it floods. It sounds like there's a pattern I need to be aware because I have a camper there too. But anyways, the flood.
Well, it makes you feel any better. My river had about 8 foot of water on it.
Yeah, we didn't have to move our camper, but where your lot's at, you sit just a little bit lower than us.
Yeah. So I sit just about a foot higher than St. Mary's Marina, if I remember right. But,
do you have a fifth wheel hooked up for your truck? I'm assuming you do.
Yeah. And I just had my camper in at that point, right? So
it was April. So
I'm so smart. I have a fifth wheel camper without a fifth wheel hookup. So mine's a permanent attachment to wherever. I never planned on moving it. Yeah. So if I ever have to move it, Shaun, I'll be giving you a call, maybe.
Give me a holler.
Yeah. Whenever you're moving yours out, just drop yours off, swing back by, and pick mine up.
But the way the river's fishing this year after the flood, I don't necessarily think that the flood stressed the fish and killed the fish, because
I'm talking about the last flood that the one Marshall was talking about. That's what I was scared was going to happen this time.
I've talked to a lot of people, a lot of I'll say accomplished older fishermen, and some really smart younger fishermen. And most of the theory, especially on the smallmouth side, right? So they have to eat and they want to eat. So if that flood comes through and that water stays dirty and high all spring long, right? The shad spawn don't happen. So the fishing's typically good this year, right?
Because they're more sporadic.
And then next year, you don't have that shad in the pool. You don't have that food. So the majority of your fish move, right, to find fish. I don't necessarily think it kills off the fish. Them fish is smart, you know.
Right.
Any of them's in the river, they're smart enough to get up against them rocks or behind them rocks or you know, up against the bank, wherever that is, to protect themselves from that high swift water. And they just move, you know, they move back out, you know, as that water goes down.
Smallmouth is probably a party. They're enjoying all that.
Yeah. But so to me, next year's going to be kind of, well, I don't know. I think our water came down enough and cleaned up enough that I believe that shad spawn kind of happened.
I think
maybe not. Yeah, maybe not to the extent that they normally do, but I think it's going to be enough to keep them fish, you know, most of them fish around where, fingers crossed, it don't affect the fishing on the river. This flood like it did in 04. 04, if you remember 04, it was about
railroad tracks.
Yeah, it's about 4 foot or 5 foot higher than what it was this time, and it was later in the spring, if I remember right. And I don't know. I didn't have a river lot back then. I'm just going by a buddy of mine. And that water stayed dirty longer, and then that from what 04 to, my Lord, probably 2015, that river fished brutally tough.
Yeah.
You know, your weights was way down. There's a ton of non-fish.
So I actually have a different theory on why the river's fishing good this year. I think it's right. But so if you notice, since the flood, all the cover has disappeared, right? There's not nearly as much brush along the side of the banks. A lot of banks are more bare now than they used to be.
Some of them's got more cover though.
Yeah, some of them got more, but a lot of it washed away. You see a lot more bare spots and a lot more rock cover than you do brush cover. In the past, there's been 7-pound smallmouth weighed in at tournaments, you know, like a single.
Very, very rare.
Yeah. But I've always been convinced they're bigger fish in the river because especially during Bass Festival, you can catch them spawning. People always weigh in 4 and 5 pound fish. Yeah. So they're there. I just have always had this theory that the river's so big and there's just so much, the way it's laid out, it's kind of hard to really find the cover that they're in. But now I think with all that cover being washed away, they're being forced to move more, and I think that you're going to find them out and about a little bit more than you did before. I think there was fish out there for people to catch, but I think it might be a rock pile on a ledge that nobody's ever looked at before. Now they're kind of being pushed out of that. I might be wrong, but whatever's going on, I'm
pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, let's hope the river keeps doing the. Do you have any pull with the DNR to try to get them to stop the river? That would be a cool thing they could try sometime.
So,
yeah.
I'm gonna get into, I guess, a little bit of a conversation I didn't intend to get in on. Of course, I just said that I was not the director not going to be the director next year. I need a break, right? I want to concentrate on. I'd like to have a year or two where I can actually concentrate on fishing, you know, as opposed to just nobody. I'm going to say nobody realizes it, but there are people who realize that tournament directing puts a lot of weight and stress on you as a person, and you don't necessarily fish well, right?
I can see that because as much time as we have to wake up to be early, you're there before us.
Yeah.
You're there after us. Yeah. You still have all the time on.
Well, I was talking about, you know, setting up for it. I lost.
Oh, your battery went dead. It did. Change them out real quick.
Just like your boat needs maintenance to stay reliable for you on the water, so does your furnace and air conditioner stay reliable for you and your family. And personally, whenever it comes to my family's comfort, I only trust the best. And that's Wood Heating and AC. Make sure you give them a call at 740-373-6151 today to make sure you and your family stay comfortable all year. Hey, are you or somebody you know a veteran that needs help fighting the VA for the benefits that you deserve? If so, you need to give Jan Dills a call. I can say from personal experience that Jan Dills and her group of attorneys will fight for you to the bitter end. If you're fighting the VA, You need the attorneys that won't take no for an answer. Give Jan Dills a call today at 877-755-7183.
Being a tournament director. So, second day or Saturday of the Bass Festival, right? We ended weigh-in between 6 and 6:30, if I remember right. When everybody went home and retied, I went back and prepped for day 2, right? So, new weight cards, getting the announcer cards in order. So 9 o'clock at night, right? I finished that.
And then you have to retire, do all that stuff.
You got to do, and I didn't retire. Right? I retired the next morning.
Yeah.
After I got on the water because you get back up at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And you're putting boats in to go fishing.
Which puts you a step behind of everybody else.
It does, right? Yeah. So that's a big part of why I just want a break, right? I'm in talks with a gentleman that I think will do a bang up job, right? We're going to keep our committee. We're going to keep them basically in power, right? To collectively make all the rules.
Which is how it should be.
Yeah. You don't ever, and I don't ever, as a tournament director, want to be solely responsible for making the rules or making the decisions, right? Because human personality will always want you to make them rules to benefit you, right?
Right.
And
or even the perception.
Yes, or the perception. So I just kind of want a little bit of a break, and then hopefully we can rotate it. That's kind of in our thought process. I'm not giving up no names. A select few people I'm in talks with, but he's got to confirm. He's 100% on board,
right?
And you got to come to that understanding, right? And you got fishermen that because you go out first, right? Your weight team goes out first and the director goes out. But
they got first.
Well, by West Virginia state law, for a tournament director, right, we have rules that the West Virginia DNR impose on us, right? And one of them is weigh-in, the tournament director has to be on site, right? So that's why we go out first. We come in early, make sure everything's set up, because we want that thing to flow. It don't matter if it's $100,000 to win tournament or a $500 to win tournament. I want it to flow for the best experience possible for the anglers out there. Mm-hmm. And that's why. Yeah. Well, thank you. I try real hard, but
everybody does a good
job. I critique myself every tournament, right? What I can do better, but you asked the question, do you know anybody at the DNR about stalking or anything like that? So what a lot of people probably don't know is I've been going to the quarterly meetings as much as possible with the DNR. Got a pretty decent relationship with several of the DNR officials. So they did a 3-year study on the Ohio River that just ended last fall, and I went when they reported their findings, and their findings was smallmouth bass is thriving, right? And everybody can see that. I mean, the report on the Bass Festival day 1, 136 anglers. There was 500 and some fish caught, right?
Wow.
It was 570 something, right? Well over 300 of them was smallmouth, with 160 being largemouth and 50 or something being spots. So it does show, in our creel report that smallmouth is doing really well. The other side of that, so largemouth is declining at almost the same pace, the opposite direction, right? They are extremely.
Might not hurt if they started dredging some of the backwater to give the largemouth a little bit more area, because like French Creek, you can't even get back in there.
No, and let's face it, the state, nor the Corps of Engineers, right? So there's a lot on the Ohio River, right? It is a navigable, I don't know if I said that right, but waterway, right? So the Corps controls the Ohio River, not the DNR, right? So they will not, or ever will, dredge backwaters, and everybody gripes about it, and I get it, right? all they care about is getting barges and
you would think
it's an industrial waterway to them. Is what it is.
You think though eventually not for fishing, but for like the land around it, like for deterioration and stuff, they would almost need the drainage from the backwaters to make the river flow. You'd think eventually they're going to get to a point where to make everything work right, they'll have to do something.
And it may, but I don't see it in my lifetime.
Get a shovel, boys. Let's get out there and start dredging these things ourselves.
But you know, I've developed a pretty nice relationship with a lot of them guys and some of the fishing biologists and different things, and talking. I'm supposed to sit down with the local biologists and some of the key guys in the DNR to try to put together something to help the largemouth fishing. Like I lobbied, and there's some fishermen that probably hate my guts right at the moment. But you know, you got a lot of your St. Mary's has a Tuesday night tournament. Williamstown has a Thursday night tournament. I lobbied hard for them, right, not to fish the backwaters this spring.
The Tuesday nighters didn't, did they? I thought
they did a great job. They elected to put the backwaters off limits. My theory is you got a couple key backwaters that the largemouths fall in. Yeah. Right. To this day, there's just a couple key. A lot of the other ones is silted in. The largemouth ain't in there like they used to be. But if you can give them fish just a break, right? You know, if you go in there every Tuesday night and pull them spawning fish off, or the ones that's Gordon Fry, right? You're
sacrificing.
You're depleting. You're completely depleting the largemouth population.
We're our own worst enemy.
We are as tournament anglers. We are, and most people they probably understand that, but they don't want to.
Still want to catch that 5-pounder on bed, boys.
Yeah. So. You know, as a High River Challenge, we've elected not to fish from May 1 to Bass Festival, right, weekend, and try to give the majority of that time off.
That was a good call.
It was. It's not the end all be all. It's not the cure, right? We got to we want to start looking at conservation and collectively as a group getting with the DNR and working out a plan to put some hard surfaces and then silted in backwaters for them fish to be able to spawn. But behind the scenes a little bit, I would like to put a little bit of more time and effort. You know, like I said, started the podcast. I got a business to run, so I do have a little bit of free time, but I'd like to concentrate some on having more in-depth conversations going forward with that. And I'll tell you, I'm a big proponent of the bass season, just like Pennsylvania and High and Lake Erie and all them guys.
I was just going to say that, like, if we love to fish up north, it's proven by their science that they don't let people live well during the spawn.
Yep.
And everybody from here goes there to fish.
Yep.
You can still go out and catch fish during the spawn. That is legal. You just can't have a tournament. So
yeah, you can't trailer them. They're off limits, right?
Yeah, so you can't live well. So, I mean, I don't see why people are really that upset about the idea of it. So we're not going to have any tournaments for a month and a half that people are normally used to. I mean, if you've only ever won tournaments off bed fishing, it's going to suck for you.
Well, let's face it. When's the best time to fish?
Oh, that time of year, yeah.
100%, right?
But we also need to protect our fish, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can still go out and catch fish. You're just not going to cash a paycheck, which I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Trust me, at this point, a month and a half of no tournaments sounds really good sometimes.
But,
yeah. No, I appreciate you heard that too, by the way. Like, if nobody else heard that, I guess as anglers, a lot of people like to complain, but you're really stepping up to the plate as the tournament director, one, but two, the conservation side of it. We need that. We need somebody who has that relationship to help voice our concerns.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe this as a person, right? You can't complain unless you're willing to do something about it, right?
Amen.
So that's the way I look at it. You may not get what you want by trying to do something about it, but if at least you try, you've tried, right?
Right. So That's a perfect segue. I'm going to mention a sponsor real quick. They don't actually pay us. We just put them on here for donations. But you're talking about practicing. You can't complain unless you want to do something about it, right? So Pathfinder Farms, the same lady, Sandy Brookle, was telling you about the guy that's hooked up with Antlers and Anglers. Her and her husband, they run this. They have a farm. It's 100 acres. They do this all volunteer, but they take in kids that are either people talk about the youth issues. Won't get down with this, but they decided to utilize their farm to take kids that are either just need an after school program, court appointed, both parents work and just need a place to go after school, whatever it is. And like her husband, he does like a wood shop, so kids that need tutoring in math, they're helping develop their math skills by using rulers and tape measures and building stuff. So one kid built a bridge. He's 8 years old. They designed a bridge to spec and then built it on the farm. So, I mean, anyways, the stuff they're doing with kids there, they actually did exactly what you just said. Instead of just sitting around complaining about it, they stepped up to the plate. They feed these kids. It's kind of cool what they do. They have like an open forum where the kids just come in and make their own meals. Like they give them like an ingredient list. The kids have to cook for themselves. So these kids learn how to become independent while they're there.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry. Every time I get a chance to buy them, I do.
Yeah.
Because even if they don't, it's all ran on donations. So even if they run out of money from donations, they pay for these kids to feed out of their own pocket and stuff. So sorry, I had to throw them in there.
No, you're I agree 100%. Right?
Yeah.
You get down a rabbit hole here probably, but you take our business, right, or my business, and everybody wanted to come to me with problems, right, and gripe and complain. And I kind of said, whoa, guys, if you bring me a problem, that's fine. But if you bring me one problem, you have to bring me one solution to that problem.
Which is fair.
It's 100%
That's how you accomplish
fair.
stuff.
It is, right.
Yeah. Because people don't realize that a problem's, I guess, not solvable until they think about how you're going to solve it, right?
Yes.
They think that they come to you, the boss, with this ridiculous issue or whatever it is. And then once they have to sit down and think about, well, how would you solve this? They realize, oh. Yeah.
Sometimes the writing's on the wall if they just think about it, right? It's the same way with tournament angling, right? To me, one of the easiest things is, I know we don't have the conservation. I know we don't have the backwaters to for the most part, that the largemouth need to spawn. But the key areas that we still do have, don't go in there and tear them up. I mean, on the Tuesday nights last year, right, there was well over 150 pounds worth of fish taken out of one backwater last year on Tuesday night tournaments from
I didn't know there was 150 pounds of fish in the river.
But them fish are there for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So, if that's a problem, eliminate the problem and try to help, right? And it forces people to fish differently than how they really like to fish, right?
That's how you become a better angler.
That's how you become a better angler, 100%.
That's another thing when we was on topic of time on the water. Anybody listening that's new, try something new. Every time, if you're not in a tournament, if you're just out practicing or fun fishing, pick up a lure you've never used, try a technique or fish at different depths. Because honestly, like this year, I can say it now since Bass Fest was over, but I've never been a big chatterbait person. It's just not my thing, especially on the river. And this year, one day during practice, I just was frustrated. It was like 2 o'clock. I caught a fish. I picked up a little 1/4 ounce chatterbait. I started slinging that thing around, and I found a pattern within seconds where I was just, I'd pull up to a spot and go, I'll catch at least 3 keepers right here. And just one after another, I'd catch them. And then sure enough, on tournament day, whatever,
But and you said do something different, right? So we can stay our course the way we've always stayed the last 50 years of tournament angling. Sooner or later, you're going to have to do something different, especially the largemouth guys, right? Because the graph was unbelievable with the DNR, and they did a bang up job. They contracted the WBU biologists, right, in their program to run the study, but it's crazy. So what's that?
Did they have any predictions of like what the fishery would be like in 5 years, 10 years?
No, they didn't do. Well, I'll tell you, largemouth wise, it ain't good.
Yeah, I get it.
I'm just telling you, it's not good. Now, smallmouth is crazy, but we can keep our course, right, for another 5-10 years, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to make a change, right? Because there ain't going to be largemouth to fish, but we can start early and trying to work on that conservation and help the fishery and change course in your decision, and then maybe we're leaving something for our kids, right?
Right. Yeah.
So and that's the way I look at it. Like, I want to leave something for the next generation.
Well, 5 years is your current generation losing out too. I mean, if you think about it, I know anybody listening that's in their 20s doesn't have any concept behind this because life hasn't moved fast enough for you yet. But 5 years isn't a long time. We're talking 5 or 10 years having issues. We might as well consider it having issues today because I'll blink and 5 years has went by. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's. I'm glad they did the study. That's something that maybe we need to push a little bit harder to try to get people to understand. Yeah, because when we first started, we used to go largemouth as the primary fish we got.
We would catch maybe a couple of smallmouth a year, maybe one or two in a tournament, almost all largemouth.
Yeah, but hardly. Now that you mention that. You're right. There's not a whole lot of. Now, I've heard this year a lot of people had luck on the main river with largemouth, which was kind of a different story than you usually hear. But yeah, that's crazy.
I think I've been tournament directing for 7 years, if I remember right. 7, 8, 6. I don't know. Time flies. But when I first started running the Bass Festival, and that was the first tournament I ever tournament directed.
Way to start small.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, way to ease your way into it, Shaun. Now, before you go on, I've been meaning to say this like 5 times now. You run it like a business by everything you described. And I will say that not a whole lot of tournament directors are business owners. I will say the way you run it, laid out like a business, has helped it so much. And when you pointed that out, the more I heard you talk, the more I thought about how, one, your business must be ran. One, so good for you. But two, the board of directors you have and just the way you have it laid out. Any other tournament director listening that has a scalable sized tournament with, let's say, 30 boats or more, this is some stuff you should really be considering to help. Girl, I just want to say kudos on you for realizing that, obviously as a business owner, it helped you.
It is a business, right? There ain't one person in our organization, right? So, and I consider our organization a High River Challenge, right? So the High River Challenge actually runs the Bass Festival for the Bass Festival, right? So we take not one red cent out of there. Out of it, right? The money always goes back.
You're doing it for the fun, for your fun and for our fun and for everybody else's fun.
I just seen a need, right? And I wanted to help that need. And I didn't realize it would go as far as it has or as big as what it has.
And there's still more potential.
There is. Yeah. But you do have to run it as a business, right? Because you have cash coming in from sponsors, you have cash coming in from the anglers, right? So you have to manage that money and put that payout to where you can scale it, right? So something with the Bass Festival, right? And let's talk Bass Festival just a minute again.
Yes, fine.
The Bass Festival's been up and down. This year was 41 years. You can remember probably back about 15 years ago, and me and Bobby Harton was actually just talking about this. I think it was 15 years ago. Bill Fuller won it that year, as a matter of fact, and Fred Hess. $7,500 to win. Wasn't a full field. They didn't have the money, right?
Oh, wow.
And I think there was like 95 boats, if I remember right, in that tournament. They didn't fill the field. But running it as a business, right? My goal was to hold money, right? So we always have money in our account going into next year. Right. So now if that sponsor backs out last minute, we lost our shirt sponsor this year, right? And
which happens is people get sponsors. That's a tricky business.
When that shirt sponsor announced they wasn't going to be able to sponsor this year, it was I couldn't react, right, to get the shirts. So, and let me be very, very clear, the shirts are awesome. Shirts are the biggest pain in the butt.
I enjoy the extra $3,000, even though I didn't get to spend it. I like the idea.
Yeah. So we won't. We probably won't be doing shirts again if I have it my way. Right now, the committee could vote against it, but they're an aggravation.
Oh yeah, because people want to complain about shirts and shirt sizes every year.
Yep, they do. They do. They write down on their entry form what shirt size they are, but ain't none of them. It's never accurate. It's like, how do you get your shirt size mixed up from the time you submit to the time you tournament?
It's all those sandwiches are eating during practice, you know.
But no, you do have to run it as a business.
You do a great job,
and
it's grown.
That way you can scale it for years to come. If you don't run it like a business, you can't scale it.
So you picked up the Bass Festival kind of as a dying thing and needed some growth, or?
Well, yeah, I didn't. You know, the 3 years. A good friend of mine did it for a while, and then he got out of it, and he told me even when I was saying, I said, Shaun, he said, Shaun, you don't want to get into this, right? He said, I've done it. And he said, 4 or 5 years, you're ready to beat your head again. And
you made it
he wasn't wrong. I'll tell you. I mean, he was not wrong. I said it last year and the year before last. You know, I need a break, and you do physically, mentally need a break, but
well, you're doing it because I think the right way to do it, because you have it already set up to where, like any business, the person running it can eventually step back and it still operate the way that it was. Because with the board, even though you're leaving as the director, the board's still going to operate everything the way it was before. So we really shouldn't expect any major changes, except for the guy that has to DQ us is going to be a different.
It's going to be a different. Yeah, and you know, if there's a problem, even at an event, right? You know, DQ, it's pretty black and white. But if there's a situation, before I rule on that situation, I normally get the majority of our board or committee together, and we talk about it, and then I'll relay mine. Because I just want to make sure you know, we get in our own head sometimes. Each individual, you know, you think, and then you kind of get, well, it's my way or no way, right? But you don't want that, or you shouldn't do that.
Fishermen aren't hard-headed, are we?
No.
So, Shaun, I have really just one thing I think the most important thing.
Hey, y'all. It's Jordan with the Getting Bit Fishing team, and I just wanted to take a moment to say thanks for checking out our podcast, The Last Cast, filmed in the one and only Ohio River Outdoors, located at 13520 Emerson Avenue, Williamstown, West Virginia. If you've never been here before, this place has absolutely everything a fisherman can need. Come swing by today. Come see Doug. Trust me, if you've never been before, it's worth the trip. Are you finally ready to buy that new pontoon boat for the family, or the new bass boat for yourself? Or maybe you even just need good, reliable, affordable service for the boat that you already have? Well, either way, you can get all of that at Seven Rivers Marine in Coolville, Ohio. Personally, I have trusted them with all of my marine needs for years, and honestly, you can't ask for a better group of people. Give them a call today at 740-846-0062. Again, that's 740-846-0062.
People really want to hear is your fishing, right? So we're going to move on to that part real quick. Your fishing style, if you wouldn't care just to let us know, not necessarily on the river, just in general, what your favorite style of fishing is, what your go-to lure is, techniques. How do you fish? How does Shaun Douglas, not even on a tournament day, I didn't need that anyways. Just on a typical day, if you're going to go out fishing, like what do you start with on the deck of the boat if you don't have any general direction you want to go in? How do you try to dial it down?
So I'm pretty versatile. My favorite style of fishing is top water. I don't care if it's a pop water, I don't care if it's a spook, don't care if it's a buzzbait. I just like top water. Frog, it depends. I don't really have a favorite bait. I normally start each tournament or each day on the water with, I've got, depending on time of year, I normally have a top water one. I normally have a crankbait, spinnerbait, and some down baits, and I try to be pretty versatile. I can catch them.
Are you getting into the live scope thing?
I haven't. Does it help? Yes. I think on the river it's not as needed as it is. I go to Lake Hartwell every year in November. It plays a big part in Lake Hartwell, right? If you catch one or two fish each day off a live scope on the river, I think it's a good day. And sometimes them bites are key, but I'm a structure fisherman, so
yeah, we are too.
I look at it, but I don't.
That's what we do.
And my buddy, my partner, he don't have live scope, but he's got 360 and Humminbird 360. So, and I see the benefits in it. I mean,
I see more benefits in the 360 a lot of times. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Because I'm like you. We both like to fish rock piles, logs, stuff like that. All I ever do is, like, let's say if we're fishing a bank and I see a rock pile to our right or something with the 360, I'll go there with the live scope and just pan over to see if you even see any fish or anything in there. But if you don't, I use it to see if there's fish there. But I've not been able to just dial in by watching my bait and fish on the forehead kind of thing.
So we was really last year in the challenge championship, 25,000. Me and Tony, my partner. I can honestly say I've never been on some big fish in my entire life as I was for that tournament. And we honestly gave that tournament away. I don't 100% know that we had enough for Hank and Tommy that second day, but I will tell you they beat us to the bank that we wanted that day, and I had the ability to get there first. But it was a bank that's it's very looked over, and
you didn't think they were going there?
I didn't think he might be on it. I was within, I could see the bank. I was within a half mile, and he passed me, and he's got a lot faster boat than me, but I don't know if he made a stop. I don't know what he did, but he passed me, and we're fishing on my Ranger, and we're literally running 50 mile an hour, right? And he passed me and slid over in front of me and slid on that bank, and I just looked over at Tony and went, "Oh crap, we messed that up." But we was on fish, and it wasn't in one spot. It was three, 4 key spots. And we caught one off live scoop that day that was critical in our finish of that tournament, especially on day one. We caught 2 key fish I did off the live scoop. Day 1 and day 2, one each day. That was critical in how we fished. But so it's got.
Where do you see it going? As a tournament director, I know you obviously don't direct for the elites or anything like that, but with this live scope controversy, where do you see this going? Do you think they'll ever be at our level where there's a limit on how many people can have, where we say, look, you can have 1 live scope on your boat, you can't have 7, or do you think that'll never come to our level, but in the elites they'll put it? Because I do think it'd be kind of hard to put a limit on something like this.
I don't see it going anywhere. I mean, it's just like, I can remember back when I first started fishing, you pull into a boat ramp and take Bass Festival, for example, you start putting boats in and everybody's sitting in an 18-foot boat with a 150 on it, right?
Yep.
And it just keeps growing and growing and growing and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Look, there ain't one organization, whether you're talking BASS, FLW, Major League Fishing, that ain't in it for business, right?
Right. Yeah.
And Bass Pro Shop's a big influencer, right?
Lawrence is a big influence.
Lawrence is a big influence. It's, everything we do is money driven, right?
Yeah.
As humans, right?
Nobody buys tickets to a fishing tournament. We rely on sponsors to give us money.
Yep.
And a lot of those sponsors are electronics companies.
Yep.
So, I agree with all that. The only thing I see in the future that concerns me is maybe on the elite level or the pro level. It's really hard to get a 15-year-old kid interested whenever he's like, man, I got to spend $60,000 on electronics before I even buy the $80,000 bass boat. That's a hard pill to swallow. I just think someday the elites will step up and say, look, you can have 1 live scope on the boat or something. I don't think you can eliminate it.
One live, one 360.
Yeah, I think there'll be limits to it eventually, but I don't think you can ever take it away because one, you're going to lose your sponsorships. The electronics companies want those on the boat to sell.
Yep.
And secondly, I don't think that live scopes like spotlighting like some people try to say it is, because I've seen fish on live scope. Just because you see them doesn't mean you can catch them.
No, and don't mean they're bass either.
Yeah,
you've got to be really dialed in to know what you're looking for.
There's one pro that was on there the other day going, look, he's flaring up on it right now. And I was like, how can you tell on an ultrasound that thing's flaring up at you?
And I've seen them flash on it, right? Where they flash on the bait because you can see your bait coming through the water and they flash on it. And then a second later, you get that bite and you set the hook. But
it's kind of a cool feeling you do.
It is. It's like playing Nintendo.
We have a real
video game fish.
Yeah, Frogger, right?
Yeah. So it's starting to get busy in the store. We're going to wrap things up. Do you have any questions?
I do have a question real quick for Shaun. So, like, we went to Smith Mountain, Virginia, and they're doing hybrid largemouth with Florida straight backs. Is there any talk about that happening in West Virginia?
It was brought up. So the DNR, what kind of started all this, I guess, is the DNR started putting rules and regulations on the tournament directors, right? And rules that we as tournament directors don't get behind those rules, right? There's kind of dumb rules, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of, there was a few of us from High River Challenge I asked to be there, and Bass Nation and the Federation and some of the bigger tournament trails in the state. We just kind of went down there and bombarded before the meeting, right? And a lot of us, you can write down to ask to speak for I think it's 5 minutes. So several of us spoke to them and talked to them about the situation, and they realized it was a problem. So they started setting up meetings. So we generally meet twice a year to talk about them rules and different things. And some in that conversation, somebody asked about that, and their biologist said that West Virginia cannot sustain that strain. It won't. They won't.
Temperature.
I didn't get into the. So no, I don't think that's going to happen. I talked to him about spots. I said, my Lord, put some spots in there.
Those are fun to catch.
They are fun to catch. I mean,
they're biting.
You go to Lake Hartwell, that's predominantly what's down there. Yeah. But I want to tell you, they're dime a dozen down there, and they're getting up to 4, 5, 6 pounds down there. I mean, they're fighting. If you want to get a hold, if you've never got a hold of a 5-pound spot, you think a 5-pound swallow fights. I'm gonna tell you that spot's massive.
Yeah, I gotta see the rod tip bent over now. So,
but they don't even want to talk about even spots just because they do take over, right? Well, I think they call them like an invasive species, I think, right?
Really? I didn't know.
Well, I'm not sure that's
not invasive. I know what you're talking about, though, where it's like a foreign species or something.
Yeah, they just come in and they take over. They said in 50 years, that's all we'll be here. We'll be spots.
That sounds like a good time, honestly.
Well, I like our smallmouth fishery a whole lot. So
when we were in Virginia at Smith Mountain Lake, so they had started that program 5 years before that, and they're catching the fish that are 5 years into that program. They're already hitting 4 or 5 pounds.
Right.
Yeah, like I said, they had yearlings in there. Is what they dumped in. The yearlings from the first year are already above 5 pounds in there.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
But you fish in Florida, don't you, occasionally? You guys go down there?
My dad and brother goes every year. I haven't went for around 10 years or so.
So, you might have an answer for this. Whenever we fished there, I felt like the Florida strain largemouth fish a lot different than the largemouth I was used to. Like, they group up differently. They're harder to... Do you think the same thing? Like, if you get out in Florida, do you think they're a little bit different to chase after compared to largemouth up here?
To me, they're harder to chase after just because there's to me, it's more structure than anything. It's all grass down there, right?
Yeah.
And let me be clear, I like fishing grass, and we got a lot of grass coming in the High River. But there is so many different types of grass down there, and trying to dissect grass to pattern them it's just tough.
Something you almost have to grow up doing down there.
Yes.
You know?
You got to be on.
So you don't think it's the bass that are different so much. You just think it's the structure down there. Because in Smith Mountain, have you ever been to Smith Mountain?
I never had, no.
Let me describe this lake to you. It's different than any lake you'll ever be on because it's a mountain that got flooded in and turned a bunch of other mountains. So a lot of lakes, right, it's just a giant bowl. There's some structure in the middle stuff. Now this is all a bunch of little mountain tops. So like it's pointy in a lot of areas. There's ridge lines. So the fish have 10 billion places to go, and it's 170 foot of water, and it's like 30,000 acres. And we blanked the first day at the so-called best fishery you could ever get. The second day we did a little better. Man, I was convinced it's just because the largemouth held up differently, but it probably that lake is a lot to dissect.
It's
4 days.
It's so deep.
It is. Yeah.
And like I said, you would come up and you get in like 190 foot of water, and all of a sudden you're in 10 foot of water. And you look on the maps, and you're on top of a mountain ridge.
Right.
I've never fished for fish on top of a mountain, so I don't know how they react
Yeah.
to being in mountaintops. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's kind of the fun part about going different places and fishing.
You learn a lot.
You do. Lake Hartwell's a very fun one to go to.
You guys have tournament down there, don't you, every year?
Yeah, so Wright's Riverside Marine, they started doing it years ago, and it's a very low entry fee, but it's a 7-day tournament, right? So you can win $300 or $400, you know, each time, you know, each day down there, and then they do a point system from like Wednesday to Sunday, and crown an overall champion, right? It's more bragging rights than it is anything.
It's a fun fishing trip with a bunch of guys.
It is. There's about 20 boats that go down there, 20, 25 boats go down there, and we just have a good time. And but that fishery is not like anything else, right?
Marshall and Bill went down there this year, and they loved it.
Yeah.
They said at first it was really tough, and they weren't going to go back. And then about halfway through it, once they started figuring out, because it's just like any lake, you're not going to catch fish the first few days there because you're not going to know crap about everything.
Yeah.
But by the end of it, they're looking forward to next year's trips.
Oh yeah.
This is a great group of guys. This is a great group of guys you have go down there. It's just fun to be around.
It's just fun, right?
Yeah.
And it's a great end of the year event, right? And I don't have to run it. I can just show up and go fish and have fun
and smash it.
You can. Now, you can get days where it's really tough down there, but I mean, you've got to learn to be very versatile. You know, you may be fishing 60 foot of water, you may be fishing on top. You just don't know. And you may be fishing on top and 60 foot of water. That's the weird thing about that.
That's the only way you learn that. I mean, it just honestly, a lot of how we've become better, because now we're, like I said earlier, we're at the point where we're playing every sport. Now we're to the point to where, for the most part, consistently we don't limit, you know, except for the river for whatever reason, but that's a different story for a different day. And all that came by fishing all these different lakes and learning, because, you know, the river, you'd always be scared for years. I would fish with a Senko, or for the first year, because that's all we had confidence in the river. You go try new things at these lakes where you think, you know, you can.
Yeah.
And then you learn something, you bring it back here, back home. Honestly, there's a lot of stuff that people probably don't think would ever work on the river. We don't only work at Lake Erie or at Lake Chautauqua. I'm here to tell you that's where we're starting to have most of our luck, is not being scared to throw big baits. So, I mean, Alan White, which another great fisherman to learn from, a guy that has mentored me in lips through and through. He's a big advocate to throw big baits on the river. He thinks that, you know, throw a biggest spinnerbait you can find. He doesn't fall in the whole, you know, finesse fishing tactics. So yeah, it's yeah.
You know, years ago, what was cool, I was on a pretty good smallmouth bite, and this was, say, 10 years ago. And everybody was throwing, that was back when tubes was so popular, right? I was throwing a little tender tube, Bass Pro Shop tender tube, and man, I was struggling that day, and I got mad, and I took it off, and I put this Magnum Bass Pro Shop tube on. It was 4-inch tube. The thing was huge. I whacked them. Right?
Kind of like being a chatterbait.
Well, yeah, it's just, you got to be versatile, right? You know, some days in fish, you kind of got to figure out what they want, right? Some day they want small baits, some day they want big baits.
Yeah, well, you'd be surprised to find out people probably throw those big baits. If the way I finally figured it is, if they didn't catch fish on these baits, they wouldn't have them in the bait stores because people wouldn't buy them.
Yep.
So if you see a bait on the shelf, chances are somebody's got a fish with it. You should try it. Yeah. But,
and you ever want to know where to get a big bait? Come right here to High River Outdoors.
Yeah, so for anybody that's never been here, we're spoiled.
We are. 100%.
Yeah, because we travel to some of these other bait stores. Like, we buy some of these huge lakes with $1 million homes, and there's like 7 marinas, and you can't find a bait and tackle shop bigger than my living room. But you come here, anybody listening, Ohio River Outdoors is bigger than any Bass Pro Shop you're going to go to as far as the fishing section is concerned. There's wall to walls, 5,000 square foot probably of nothing but muskie fishing, catfishing, and that majority bass. Yeah, but I mean, speaking of that, on the topic of Ohio River Outdoors, I'm going to give out the code now since we're towards the end of the podcast for your 5% discount. The code is going to be LIPS. LIPS. So after this podcast drops, come by, let them know that you like Lips's big, beautiful lips. You will get 5% off. And actually, I'll talk to Doug. If they say it like that, if they will say, I like Lips's big, beautiful lips, I want to give them 10% off. Only if we can get on camera every single time and just have a massive recording of all the fishermen, all the guys in the So, Shaun, before we end, is there anything you wanted to end with, or anything that we're leaving undiscussed that you want to?
So, High River Challenge, our first tournament's the 22nd of June.
Northern Division, right?
Southern. So we'll start in Gallipolis. Then we'll go to, I believe, St. Mary's the end of July. I don't have the dates with us. But
27th.
If for anybody listening,
for
anybody listening, you can find the dates on their website, the Ohio River Challenge Facebook page. Just type in Ohio River Challenge. Yeah, it'll pop up on Facebook. All the dates are listed there. Yep. Entry fees. We'd love to see more people out there. The river's fishing good this year. It's a great trail to fish. Just everything Shaun just described about Bass Festival, and the trails ran the same way.
Yeah, same way. Yeah.
Really professional.
$2,000 to win guaranteed. $125 entry fee per a one-day event, and then you get a northern and a southern division. 3 tournaments each. Qualify top 50 and fish the High River Challenge Championship, and it's $250 entry fee and $25,000 to win. So
big money, boys and girls. Big money.
But yeah, come out and see us. We average 75 to 80 boats per event generally. So
yeah, it's a good time. I've never left any of the tournaments feeling cheated by anybody other than the river. So, yeah. So, well, guys, we're going to wrap this up.
Jordan, thanks for having me.
Shaun, yeah, I really appreciate you coming out. And I'm not going to lie, I wasn't expecting the part about the DNR, but I think everybody will really enjoy. That's some information that I think the fishermen would really like to hear about that study. So, yeah, we appreciate you coming out. We appreciate everything you've done for the trail. So anyways, y'all have fun. Thanks for tuning into the Getting Bit Fishing. This is the last cast, and we're out.
Hey, y'all. It's Jordan with the Getting Bit Fishing team, and I just wanted to take a moment to say thanks for checking out our podcast, The Last Cast, filmed in the one and only Ohio River Outdoors, located at 13520 Emerson Avenue, Williamstown, West Virginia. If you've never been here before, this place has absolutely everything a fisherman can need. Come swing by today. Come see Doug. Trust me, if you've never been before, it's worth the trip. Hey, are you or somebody you know a veteran that needs help fighting the VA for the benefits that you deserve? If so, you need to give Jan Dills a call. I can say from personal experience that Jan Dills and her group of attorneys will fight for you to the bitter end. If you're fighting the VA, you need the attorneys that won't take no for an answer. Give Jan Dills a call today at 877-755-7183.